physicians need to pay attention to the fact that everybody, whether you're a private practice owner or whether you're employed at a hospital, every physician is being leaned toward production-based compensation. Of course, if you have a private practice, your revenue and income are based on how well your practice produces. But working at a hospital or an academic institution of some kind, this does not insulate you from the reality that money is the bottom line for every organization and business in healthcare. And we're seeing it in new contracts. They're updating it where, oh, well, our new model is set so that you can make more money than you did before. And what they're really doing is they're cutting your base salary in half, and then they're replacing it with maybe 60% of what it would have been, and plugging it into like incentive compensation, incentive-based compensation, and quality control metrics, things like that. It's production. And so now, if you're in a hospital employed position being compensated in this way, you have the risks of an owner, a business owner. They're entirely production based, and of course that risk is accepted. But when you're an employee, you think, well, as long as I do my job and I take the volume that comes to me and I work hard and I do my best, then I'm going to get paid. Well, now that's not the case. These incentive based models, of course, if you do well, you may very well earn more, but you are now under the thumb of production in order to make what you were making on a base salary that had been higher. So if you're in training and you're thinking, I want to go where I can be safe and I can get just a salary, and I'm going to go work at a hospital, as a result, you need to be mindful that things are changing, and you can't just go somewhere and just be like, oh, I'm just going to get paid this no matter what. So if that is the fear that prevents you from exploring private practice, listen up, because there are a lot of opportunities for private practice. Not every single specialty works well with it. And of course, individual circumstances are going to vary as to whether it is possible for us to be able to pursue a specific niche career track. But if it does work for you, you should think, and you don't even know it yet, you should look into it. And so I wanted to highlight 3 areas in which you have to make sure to explore to find out if it really is viable. And the first is if your specialty and the location to where you would like to live works well with owning a private practice. Specialties like surgical subspecialties, cardiology, GI, for example. Those all have a bent toward private practice opportunities. Ortho is another one. And and then the other thing is just like the geographic area that you are limiting your options to. If you don't care and you're looking all over the place, private practice may have a greater chance of happening in your life. If you're more specific and narrow in what you need in terms of where to live, it may not be as viable. But you have to consider those things. The second is the type of setup you're going into. Of course, when you think of, I'm going to start a private practice, the first thought might be, oh, I'm starting from scratch. I have to get the building. I have to get the equipment. I need to get the contracts with the insurance companies. I need to get the employees. I need to get the EHR. I got to get other software. I've got to do all sorts of stuff. That can be a laundry list of things for someone that's starting from scratch. And I've seen that happen too, worked with docs that build that up. That's a tremendous amount of capital that's invested and time. But that's not what you have to do if you're going into private practice. There are a lot of existing private practices that will take on partners on a track that get you there. You have to build up your panel. You have to make sure to interview with several, because you want to make sure that you're getting in with a group that's going to be above board in the process of bringing you on as a partner and fully understanding how much you have to contribute. Often there's a buy-in for these things where you're contributing capital to the business to become an owner. And of course, a lot of these practices are under the under the thumb of being bought out by private equity, so you have to keep your radar on for that sort of thing when you are interviewing. But if you can find a good group that's trying to maintain their practice and they want to train younger physicians to come up in the ranks, that can be a really good opportunity. The challenge is that compensation-wise at the outset, you're not going to be making as much because you have to build up your panel. You are production-based. The difference between that and a hospital employee job is that when you get the salary, you're like, oh yeah, everything's great. I'm getting paid a nice high salary and I don't have to worry about production. Wrong, you do. It's just a bit delayed, and you don't want to get surprised with updates on the compensation model that they're paying their employees. Whereas with private practice, it's like, yep, this is production-based. You got to produce if you want to earn income. And so it's more of an upfront situation, but at least you know it. The challenge here is that you have to essentially extend your thought process within the realm of, I'm saying it the wrong way. You need to extend how long you're willing to live frugally, to keep expenses limited, to put off buying a home, perhaps. How you view your debt management. If you have federal student loans, you would be extending how long you keep them in the income-driven repayment plan that you've chosen, because you're not going to be in a position to be making $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 payments on a monthly basis. And so staying on those income-driven repayment plans can help you to make sure you have that you have what you need. You can manage a budget while you build up your panel. Because like there's business development stuff, I haven't talked about that yet, but in order for the business development stuff to take place, for you to become efficient as a practicing physician and to build confidence and to get acclimated to the EHR and your colleagues and all that, that's a whole lot of stress. You don't want to compound that with expenses that you can't afford and decisions that you've made that now put you under tremendous pressure to produce faster. That income will come, but you don't want to be making yourself have to make a lot of income at the outset if you're taking this path, because you just won't do well. Nobody does well when they're being forced to be excellent at something that they're just getting into practice of doing independently. So do yourself a favor and keep your expenses as low as you can and manage your debt as if you're still in training. And if you do that, that allows your mind to have more freedom, space to think, and helps you to focus on learning your trade, learning the business, and still having a life where you can cultivate relationships and experiences with your loved ones. Maybe not be spending as much money yet, but that will come in time. Business development is another thing. It's really, really important. You need to understand how a business works. And so that means accounting, that means bookkeeping, that means taxes. And this doesn't mean that you have to learn to do all this, to be an expert. You do need to learn the basics. And so over the course of the next several weeks, I'm going to be talking about this here, so that you all can have a baseline understanding of how a business functions, and particularly medical practices. But you don't have to be an expert. In fact, you shouldn't. You should delegate. That's why professionals exist. Finding the right ones, of course, is challenging. I can help you with that too, being able to connect you with the right people so that you have the support that you need. You really need a team in order to make it a success. A lot of your colleagues, they want you to come into private practice. They want you to join them. You have to commit to learning and commit to taking it slow when it comes to living expenses, big purchases, and major moves. If you give yourself a little bit more time, it's not so much about the money that you could make, because you can make a lot of money in private practice, but the autonomy, the authority to be able to navigate how your business functions to a greater degree than you can as an employee, I can tell you personally, as a business owner, it is of great value. So stay tuned. We're going to keep talking about this.